My first one is not that hot, but it's kind of a hot take. I think we'll see the first hint that Biden is not going to run in 2024. And it might not be a very overt. It might not be a press conference. It might not be that. It might be more like Kamala in Iowa a little bit more than the vice president usually is. She might be the face of certain ceremonial things, 9/11 events, stuff like that, that the president usually does. I wonder if Kamala does more of that stuff and Biden stays in the background. So my first take is we'll get the first hint that Biden's not going to run in 2024.
But my first prediction of the next year is that, and it's something we've said in previous weeks, is, you know, I think that we should prepare for the long haul on COVID. I think we should expect that we should be using mitigation measures, wearing masks, and taking all these precautions well into the end of second quarter, if not the third quarter. And if we're paying attention to what's going on with the vaccines and the rollouts, granted, the Biden team may correct them, but it's not going fast. You know, Lori Lightfoot put out a post today where she said, if we continue to get vaccinations at the rate we're getting them now, it'll take us 71 weeks to get everybody in Chicago. I do think there'll be better efficiency and greater volume of vaccines, but I just want people to just take their time and be patient and know that the end is near.
We get the first hints of where Trump is going to be vulnerable at criminally. So I think that everybody knows that everybody's gunning for him. And I don't know if he goes down in the next calendar year, but I think we're going to get the first hints of where it's going to come from. Is it the Texas stuff in the Southern District of New York? My prediction is it's usually with these two-bit mobsters, it comes from the inside, right? Does Jared go rogue and defect and try to ruin things? Does Ivanka try to save her reputation in New York and try to flip? Usually comes from the inner circle. So who's going to be the one? I think we'll get the first hint of where Trump's most vulnerable at. And is it Pence? Is it Kushner? Is it Ivanka? Is it Rudy? I think we'll get that in the next calendar year.
Well, you know what's funny is I'm gonna basically give you one of my second points. I'm not doing them in order, which is related to that. It's related to what you said, but it's a different take. I'm thinking that Trump might not do the preemptive pardons that we think he's going to do for one reason. Those preemptive pardons on the federal level may open him up to exposure on the state level. Does that make, you know what I'm saying? So, for instance, if he were to go ahead and to go ahead and just do pardon and taxes that they've done, and the tax related stuff, any of the tax related stuff, if he pardons them on a federal level, he has basically told prosecutors in New York and other places where they file taxes that they're guilty, right? So I do wonder if some of these preemptive pardons that people think will happen might not happen because they will put him in political jeopardy, or since Rudy Giuliani and Trump's legal team is not that good, I will say this: if he does preemptive pardons, those preemptive pardons will put him into legal jeopardy. So my second thing is either they won't happen, but if they do happen, they'll put him in legal jeopardy.
My third one, it's not politics related, but a little bit. I think that a lot of people think this Twitter, Facebook, Google thing started with Trump in Section 230 because he was upset. But I think that continues under Biden. I think Google, Facebook, Twitter continue to face backlash, continue to face the antitrust stuff that they're going through now. And I think that they get, I wouldn't say punished, but I think there's rules that get put in place that aren't in place now. So I think my third prediction is that's going to be a big story for 2021 and beyond.
Addition to that, with my number three, is I do think that we will see a slow recovery with the economy, but I do think that we're going to be reimagining a lot. And I think a lot of different things. I think that the economy is going to be slow to come back. But, you know, this is both a recession and a depression and crashes. I also think, though, that for the economy to come back, and the Bernie Sanders crowd would like to hear this, there's going to have to be a lot more socialism. Not necessarily, you know, socialism as Bernie Sanders crowd wants. I mean, they do want some services, but realistically, whether it's stimulus payments, bailing out businesses, we're going to have to rebuild this country. We're going to have to rethink and reimagine a lot of different things. And I do think that, the Republicans are going to bring it up, but the debt and the deficit, that discussion needs to go away until we make people whole, because the easiest way to fix the debt and deficit is to get everybody working, get everybody paying taxes, get more tax producing bodies out there, and then you could go ahead and worry about that. So I do think that the economy will come back, but it's going to be maybe the people who the politicians and the policymakers, and especially business people, will not be calling it socialism. But I think that there's going to be a lot more socialism in America, and the people, some of the loudest champions of that socialism, won't call it socialism, and it'll be the people who have traditionally railed against socialism.
Something I will say is my fourth prediction. You were talking about reimagining, and a lot that happened in the summer surrounding the George Floyd stuff was these proclamations and declarations by Hollywood, by music, by hip hop, by the NBA, by sports, NASCAR, all these companies, all these industries that were making promises of inclusion and more Black or Latino CEOs or whatever have you. My hot take is I don't think much changes in 2021. I think people want Trump gone, and they succeeded in that. And there was a fever pitch to get everybody going. And I think you'll see a lot of programs. I know Ava DuVernay this week launched a program for Hollywood to help inclusion and stuff like that. And I know their Oscars are changing a lot of things. But I think overall, I think it was a lot of in the moment social pressure to do it. And I think slowly that kind of, I think people want to be outside and they want to celebrate. And I think the pressure goes down a little bit. And I think these companies end up not doing much.
Well, I think my fourth prediction is that uh, as a country, we are going to start. I do think humans, not the institutions. I do think humans will still continue. I should say people will still continue some of the efforts that were started under Floyd. I would like to see, I do think that you're going to see communities, smaller communities, reinvest in working on both diversity and anti-racism, and I do both work, but unfortunately most people don't realize there's a difference between diversity and inclusion and anti-racism work. But I do think you're going to see more institutions, especially educational, working in that regard. I think you'll also see communities, small municipalities, working on that issue, because right now I do think that the George Floyd issue exposed a lot of wounds, and I do think that the people, not necessarily corporations, but their people really do want to see some change. And I do think that one of the things I've known with younger generations, you're gonna see some folks that are really out there trying to make a difference, even in the world of politics. In the short term, I don't have much hope for the Republican Party when it comes to race, but I do think that you might have some young conservatives who are looking around saying, hey, we just can't be an all-white institution. So I do think that you will see some building blocks, not the efforts that a lot of people think will happen overnight, but I do think you'll see some of the building blocks. So that was my number four.
On my fifth one, I had a little fun with it. I think that, so here's my take, and then I'll give you the hot version of that take. My take is that Trump will get kicked off Twitter, banned. But to make it super spicy, I went and I wanted to pick a month. And I said, when does this happen by? And I don't think he makes it to March. I really don't. I think Twitter is over him. I think Twitter would have banned him a long time ago if he wasn't the president. And so I don't think he makes it to March. I don't think he makes it through Black History Month without getting the ban from Twitter. And I'm hoping for that. But that's my hot take.
Well, I don't disagree. And he'll, I do think he'll get kicked off. I also think that Parler will probably not have much of a life after Trump's out of office. So I think we could. But my fifth is, I won't say harder, but it is definitely something that we need to be considered. We're going to be welcomed back into the world stage, okay? And now what I do think will be kind of funny, and it ties with Trump. I can't wait to see how openly people like Merkel and Macron and Trudeau just literally, openly gush about the new president and will say things. I mean, I don't think they're going to be diplomatic. Well, maybe they will be diplomatic, but there's going to be stuff leaking, right? That Trudeau was just he couldn't stand Trump, or you're going to hear Macron say stuff, and you know Merkel. I think world leaders. I'm going to be fascinated in not just their reaction. We know what the reaction to Biden will be, but I think they're going to not be diplomatic and bite their tongue when it comes to Trump. I think they're going to kind of keep it real. And that's going to be kind of humorous because it'll be a big diss to Trump. I do think that the world leaders are going to keep it real and really, gush over the two new incoming people and totally diss Trump. So I think that will be something to watch.